Question Lane. Solving problems through the process of questions and answers.
So these dual enrollment courses that high school students are able to take, are these programs that are available to all school districts in the state of Arkansas and nationwide, or are these determined based on state directors of education or the local level? What do you think is driving that force to say which school is able to have these type of programs that create some of these widening gaps in educational attainment?
Well, I think first, I think it's worth stopping for a moment to talk about what dual enrollment is, because it can mean many different things in different contexts. So there's about 3 different ways that dual enrollment works. One is for students to actually physically attend classes at a community college or a university near them. So at some high schools, and in some states this is a much more common model, students, I don't know if they put them on a bus or they drive their cars or whatever, and they go over to the community college and they take, freshman literature or something like that. And then they go back to the high school. And so they're physically on a college campus with a college teacher, and separate from their high school life when they do that. So that's one way of doing dual enrollment. And then that course would count both for their high school and college. This is why it's called dual enrollment. You satisfy your college requirement, or you satisfy your high school requirement for the English or math class or whatever, but you also get college credit for it, and in effect get to treat your high school class as also satisfying some giving you credit and allowing you to say you've taken freshman lit or college algebra or whatever when you get to college. The other way, or another way of doing that, is for a community college or university teacher to physically come to the high school and teach the class in the high school. That happens in some places. The most common model, particularly in Arkansas, so I don't know about other states as much with that, is for a high school teacher who has a master's degree, at least in our part of the country, where the Higher Learning Commission, HLC, is the accrediting body. Their requirement for these courses is that the instructor have a master's degree in something, and 18 credit hours in the field that he or she is teaching. So you could have a master's of science in education, just in sort of generic education. But if you've got 18 hours, graduate hours of physics, you could teach a college-level physics course. And people like to say, so well, the accreditors hold these programs to the same standards that they do in college. And it's true, the same bare minimums apply for a college-level instructor teaching undergraduates as apply to the dual enrollment programs in the high schools. But I would like to think that the vast majority of people teaching at the college level are, especially given the just overproduction of PhDs all over the place, are not people with a master's degree in something and 18 credit hours in their discipline. I'm sure that happens, but I expect it's relatively uncommon. By contrast, for high schools, that is not an uncommon scenario. So that, I think, is the most common model. You have a teacher with a master's degree, your high school English teacher or your high school math teacher or whatever, who has a master's degree and 18 credit hours in the discipline, and then that person teaches a class on behalf of a community college or a university, and the student is dual enrolled. They get an ID from the university. They pay a modest tuition to the university. Sometimes it's as little as $80 or something like that. But they are technically enrolled simultaneously in the university, but they're being taught by the high school teacher who's been sort of deputized as college level instructor. And then the university or community college usually has some oversight of syllabi and textbooks and stuff like that. So those are the way that's what we mean. If you're talking about definitions, that's what we mean when we talk about dual enrollment. I don't think any state government is trying to stop the expansion of dual enrollment. I don't think there's any system whereby and I may be wrong about this because there's 50 different states and there's probably almost as many approaches to dual enrollment. But in general, most state legislators seem to be thrilled by the idea of having students, get part of their college education done more quickly and cheaply in high school. So I think they're anxious to see this implemented in as many places as possible. The challenge is for places that are either so remote from a university or college that they're kind of not on the radar for that university or college to reach out and set up a dual enrollment program. But I think the other challenge is not having enough teachers with the credentials to who have that master's and 18 credit hours to offer those classes.
So in your opinion, do you believe that these courses are less rigorous because they're taught on a high school level by people who may have master's degrees but not necessarily in the discipline that they're teaching in, or what's your philosophy on that?
Well, I mean, again, there's so many of these that it's hard to say definitively. But my sense is that these are, as I said in the article, they're classes taught in high schools by high school teachers to high school students, their high school courses. That said, I think it's possible to offer high quality, with a small number of students, a small percentage of high school students, to really offer a rigorous, probably equal to most college level courses in a high school. That said, I don't think it happens very often. Part of the problem is it's really hard to do a rigorous analysis of the rigor in a course because that's such an abstract concept. But just to give you a sense of how this works. In my particular field, where I teach, as an Africanist, I always teach world history as my kind of gen ed survey course. If you take the world history as a concurrent course, as a college level world history course, you do that as a high school sophomore, because that's the year they offer world history in high school. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not sure I was totally ready for college level work when I got to college, much less when I was a sophomore in high school. And so I think, there's just a question of the maturity of students. How rigorous can you be with, how old, what are you, 15 and when you're a sophomore in high school?
14, 15.
Yeah. And, I was once a grader, a reader for the World History AP exam, which is, it's similar to dual enrollment. The difference is that there's this kind of outside oversight. But when I was a reader for the World History AP, one of the things they kept saying is the people who were running the grading process is, keep in mind these are high school sophomores. Well, if it's supposed to be a college level attainment, you shouldn't be keeping in mind that these are high school sophomores, and they should be held to the same standard that you would a college student. So I think part of what the challenge in all of this is that your brain's not fully mature, really, till you're probably 23, 24. So I think there's a real question as to whether people are, no matter the resources available to the school and the cleverness of the students, the just sort of general intellectual maturity of some of the students taking these courses is not, they're not ready for college level stuff.
One of the points that you touched on in the article was about the benefits of dual enrollment and these concurrent type of programs where they provide a less amount of tuition that a student and their parent must pay by staying at home and also getting high school credits. But you also focused on the inequality in the sense that some students may not be able to pay that upfront cost while they're in high school. Parents might not be able to pay for that cost. What do you suggest should be done about that type of system where some people might not be able to pay for these courses and take advantage of this type of program?
Well, I know in Arkansas they've started and I don't know if it's done on a kind of ad hoc basis by universities or if it's a state policy, but they're starting to provide some waivers for students who can't afford to do those classes. And I believe, again, I may be mistaken about this, but I believe that the Department of Education, Betsy DeVos, Secretary DeVos, has talked about allowing people to get Pell Grant money when they're in high school to pay the cost of for dual enrollment courses. So on some level, that would be less bad than the current system. I think the best answer would be to say, let's do high school in high school and college in college, and keep the two things separate for everybody. But if that's not on the table, then probably making it easier for people who might struggle to come up with an extra $100, $200, which is a bargain for a college course, but it's still real money when you have to sort of plunk down cash on the barrelhead.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay up to date for more videos by clicking the bell notification icon and following our social media. For any of the people, groups, companies, or videos that were referenced in this video, don't forget to check the description and or the pinned comment section. The question lane, solving problems through the process of questions and answers.